In this video, we're going to talk about something that everybody wants to see when they watch their swing on video. It's how to have shaft lean at impact, making sure that grip is ahead of the club head. And we're going to do it with 3 easy steps. Step 1 is understanding the arm swing myth. Step 2, how to get the club in the right spot. And then 3, understanding what should happen and needs to happen at delivery. In an effort to get shaft lean, have the handle in front of the club head, we see a lot of golfers come in with what we see the arm swing myth. It's taking the arms from behind us and swiping them across or pulling them across to the front side of our body, back side of the body, the front side of the body, because that's exactly what it looks like here on this face on camera. My hands have gone from here to here across my body. It's not really what's happening though.
No, it's not. So if I get into, what would be considered a pretty good looking impact position,
right?
Got the hips, let's say 40 degrees open, torso open, shoulders square to slightly open. If I take out all the turn, right, and kind of go back to square, you can see about where my hands are at that point. So that's impact hands, basically.
Right.
Right? Now, if I go back to where I was with my pivot, that puts me in that spot. I'm not going like this to get there.
And that's the wide move we're talking about. That's not what the best players in the world are doing.
No, because if you see, if I do that again, I pose impact, kind of ratchet it back to where it would be. Impact's about right there. If I wipe the arms, that gets the club kind of really wiping across the ball too much.
Right. Now, and probably second thing golfers want along with that shaft lean is more rotation.
Right.
So if you wipe the arms and rotate on top of that, that club really starts to be pulling left.
Yeah, it does. I'll do that. Wipe the arms and get some rotation. I mean, it gets to be unplayable. The other thing is...
Show that from the face on.
Yeah, so I wipe the arms, like I'm trying to get shaft lean and add rotation. It's
now we don't see any golfers at all with their names on their bag out here.
Right. When all you think about is getting there, like from the top, golfers take the path of least resistance. They go like this.
Yes.
Because when you pull on something, the rest of the body almost has to brace for that.
Right.
Because you didn't use correct sequence, lower body and get things moving that way. You just try to get the hands ahead, and that freezes the rest of the body. That's
such a great point. So in an effort to get my hands from back here to this tour-like look by just wiping the hands across me, all right, I've got half a brain, so now I'm going to start, okay, I can do that earlier.
Yeah.
So I'll start doing that from up here, and then I'm looking at down the line, and my swing now is super steep.
Exactly.
I may be getting the hands across, but at another expense.
The real trick to this is obviously getting the club in a good spot at the top, but learning how the arms lower and letting the pivot and the shift of the body take the club out to the ball.
You have to understand that this is an illusion that you're looking at through a 2D camera from the face-on view with regards to where the body's positioned to where it looks like the hands are positioned. So you did it really well there. So this is impact. That's my body without rotation. My hands have not moved across me to get my hands forward. I've just moved my body a little bit forward and turned a little.
Yeah.
And that's what creates that look. So that gives you both the rotation, because you have a reason to rotate, and putting the shaft forward for shaft lean. Here's a tour winner and address showing you what we're used to seeing from players of this caliber. Hands slightly forward of center, which creates a bit of forward shaft lean. And as you can see by the orange shaft extension line, the shaft is normally going to point somewhere between the lead side shoulder and ear. This is him at impact, showing you again what we're used to seeing from great players. Hands even more forward, creating even more shaft lean. In this player's case, well above the norm for degrees of shaft lean. And now you can see his shaft points well outside his lead shoulder. So what it looks like from this typical face-on view is that his hands have moved further across his body towards the target to create this coveted amount of shaft lean. Now to show you what is really happening, let's look at these two same positions from above. The little camera icons and arrows are showing exactly where the camera is pointing, which creates this typical face-on perspective we're all used to seeing. The problem with that is you're seeing things relative to the camera location instead of relative to the golfer. And you need to know how things are moving relative to you, the player. There's another great example of what we call for the player perspective, which means the frame of reference of the player. To show this perspective, we're going to put some reference lines on the pro's hips. The middle arrow is the center line of his hips and shows precisely where his hips are pointing. The two outside arrows are his left hip and his right hip. So here at address, we can see his hands are indeed in front of his center line, and his elbow, his trail elbow, is in front of his right hip. Let's do the same for him at impact. Now notice where his hands are relative to his hips. His hands are barely in front of his right hip and nowhere near forward of his center line like they were at address. And as a result, his right elbow is nowhere close to being in front of his right hip. This is what we mean when you hear us say professional impacts happen on the trail side of the body. It would be possible to see this if the camera rotated with the player's center line, but because the camera normally doesn't rotate 90 degrees to the body, millions and millions of golfers are trying to do two things that we've yet to see happen in a pro's swing. Impact the ball with their hands forward of the center line and drive their elbow in front of their trail hip. Not DJ, not Rory, not Brooks, not John Rahm. We've yet to see a single pro who does either. But we do see amateur golfers every day trying to do both, something that's physically far more difficult than what you're seeing here on the screen. This is why perspective is so important to the concepts you try to execute in your golf swing. And in case you're wondering, this is when his hands get back to where they were located at address. But look at where his shaft is pointing now compared to where it was at impact. Now that you understand what the arm swing myth is, we'll call it, and you know that that's not really going to solve your problems getting the club in the position you want it at impact, let's talk about the things that will get your club in position. So first is literally getting the club in position so you can lean the shaft.
Yeah, so basically, let's say I made a normal looking backswing here.
Yep.
The thing you have to realize is what the arms do from here. The upper arm reconnects, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trail elbow starts to straighten out, and then eventually the wrist will uncock, right?
Those are the arm movements.
Right, so that puts me right here with no body turn, right? So let me actually make the movement while I'm still turned with my back to the target. Not that that happens, but we're showing you what would happen if you didn't move. Now I'll add the pivot to that, and magically, right?
Magically, you have shaft lean.
I get impact. And that's why I'm going to say it's so helpful to have 3D. You know, we've been using 3D for a long time. So you start to kind of put these pieces together, what individual movements have to happen to blend it all together to create what you're trying to do.
When you look at 3D, you'll see that the pelvis lowers a little bit in the downswing. The torso lowers a little bit in the downswing. And these are little bits. The body's re-squaring, pointing more back down to the ground. All of those things are happening. That's not what lowers the arms.
No.
The arms lower independent and relative to the body. So I can do all that, and I haven't lowered my arms. No one good gets in this position. So while that's happening, the arms have to be doing their job. There's no other way around it. If your arms are out of position, the club's out of position. If the club's out of position, you're not going to create shaft lean, and you're not going to get open.
Now, if you get up here and think that just turning and shifting is going to do it,
there's no magic to that.
Yeah, you're in for a rude awakening. That gets the club tipped out, and any club that tips out over the top of your hands before it gets below your hands is a baked-in lack of shaft lean.
Say that one more time. Show them from down the line exactly what you said there.
So if the club is above my hands, it should be on this side of my hand.
Right.
As it works its way down, it'll pass somewhere through the hands, maybe slightly inside, right? When it gets below my hands, then it should start pitching outside my hands. If it pitches out early, let's say it pitches out, we call that tipping out, right? It tips out over the hands before it gets below, and I keep that motion going. That's a baked-in scoop, so there's no shaft lean. So that's a big part of this.
And that's without a question the number one thing we see golfers do who are trying to get shaft lean. It's that early pitch out because they're trying to keep these angles intact and not let that club head get down to the ground.
Yeah, so I said it a minute ago, but I'll reiterate it. The upper arm lowers to the body, the right arm starts straightening out, kind of all in one smooth motion. The wrists start to uncock. Eventually, the club head's got to get below the hands. This angle does not create shaft lean.
That's worth repeating again.
Yeah.
That lag angle, angle between your shaft and your forearm, does not create shaft lean.
No, it doesn't. And in fact, if you try to keep it and add rotation to that, that's a tip out, and you're going to get less shaft lean because of it. So you eventually have to let that club head get below the hands at the right time, right? Add the pivot, let the club hit the ground, and you're going to have shaft lean automatically. It shouldn't be all that difficult. The problem with golf is a lot of us are trying to put things in that are actually hurting what we're trying to do.
Right. And again, it's just the illusion of what things look like on camera versus how they actually occur. So understanding to get the club in position when the club's above the hands, this is a real simple way to think about it. It's behind my hands. It should work somewhere through the hands, a little bit underneath them. And then when it's below the hands, it needs to be in front of the hands. And if you do that, you're set up for shaft lean as far as the club's concerned. We understand that the club now is working in front of the hands as it works under the hands. Now let's talk about the delivery phase, which actually gives us that look of lean.
Yeah, so, you know, you've got the club lowered here, let's say. If I didn't do anything else, I've lowered the club down. The club head's finally below my hands.
Yep.
The right elbow is started to straighten out, right? There's a wide angle here. It's not bent up this way.
Right.
As I do that, the body's pivoting, shifting forward. That's the delivery phase, and you need to let that swing through to where after the ball is gone, the butt of the club points back at me. In no way are we trying to hold this through the hip.
No, dude, go back to that spot again.
Yeah.
Just coming right through impact.
Yep.
Where it points right back at you. This is the point in the swing where the hands are literally down the middle line of your body. So if I cut your body in half, that's where the hands are now back in the middle of your body.
Oh, look.
Right there.
What a myth.
Right? So impact takes place on the trail side
Yeah.
of that middle line.
So take my buttons through my zipper, impacts a little on the trail side. As I go through, the arms, you know, they pick up their momentum and swing, you know, continuing to swing.
Right.
But the timing of that, what Mike's saying, they don't get really in front of my body again till about this point where the club points back at my belt buckle.
That's exactly right. So if you can think of the downswing gets to be infinitely easier when you think all I've got to do with this club is just to get it down back around my trail leg.
Yeah.
The rest of my body motions take care of putting it into that shaft lean. That's a lot easier than thinking I've got to get my hands from up here to back across down here at some point when all that's happening.
It's a classic steep over the top swing is this concept of, oh, I need to get my hands on or in front of the ball.
Right.
You need to feel like the hands go away from the ball, right? The ball is there. My hands and club are going away from the ball as I'm pivoting. That really almost guarantees I'm going to have a good impact.
So again, I would lose a lot of weight if I did this. Just split my body right in half, right? From very early in the backswing to just after impact, all of that work happens on my trail side.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen on my lead side. It happens on my trail side. Shaft lean, all of that is occurring on the trail side. If you can understand that, you will be way ahead of the game as far as implementing the right tactics now to make that happen. So let's talk about a nice little drill that we like to use to give golfers to feel that.
So, I mean, you can do it with or without a ball. Take it to the top, lower your arms down, right? Kind of down here on the trail side of your body. And then from there, you can make just a little pivot and pivot through till the club points back at you. So your arms right here are pretty much done. Just add the body pivot and the club swinging will kind of sling your arms across and your butt of the club will point at your belt.
And get a foam ball, go slow, film yourself from the face on so you can see that it actually does produce the shaft lean that you like seeing, but you're doing it in a completely different way. You should see when I stop right here where my hands are back in front of me, they're back to my middle line rather than something like that, which just doesn't exist in the wild.
No, you see it a lot on Instagram, but
it's an insta swing, but it doesn't happen in the real world.
And we've got all these great swings in 3D in our gear system. You just don't see it, and that's where we gather all this data, try to figure out things that these players are doing that we can kind of piece out and help you guys with understand these concepts, and that we hope is helping you.
Peace out. All right, so the key here, the secret to all this is, again, this all happens on the trail side of the body. Don't be in any hurry to wipe the arms across the body because you will not get what you're trying to get.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and give it a like. Also, if you have any questions about today's video or you have an idea of a video that you want us to shoot, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. We read every single comment. We also respond to the comments. So again, leave us a comment if you have any questions or there's anything you'd like to see. Now, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button. We have videos coming out every single week and we don't want you to miss one. So by clicking subscribe, that ensures you're notified right away when a new video comes out. And hey, if you want to add instant distance to your drive, and we all do, everybody wants more distance, go ahead and click the link in the pinned comment below. You're going to see a link. Click on it. It's going to take you to a page. You're going to enter your name and email address. We're going to send you an email where you're going to get access to instant distance, which is a video training that we put out. We know it's going to help you. We know we're going to see you farther down the fairway.